Christy Rost. As the weather cools and autumn and winter settle in, out come comfy lab robes, sweaters, and in the kitchen, the soup pot. Hearty soups that simmer slowly on the stovetop and fill the house with luscious aromas always make me feel warm and cozy. But not all soups need to take all day. Today I'm going to share 2 favorites that will warm you up and be ready to enjoy in half the time. Welcome to At Home with Christy Rost. So I have about 3 or 4 strips of bacon that I've chopped up very, very small. And I'm going to put this in my preheated pot just until the fat is rendered. In other words, you're going to start to see little bits of fat coming out onto the bottom of the pot. Once you stir this for a couple of moments, you can see it starts to get moist as the fat is melting. And so I'm making a New England clam chowder for you today. And it actually is rather quick and easy to make, so I hope you enjoy it. It's good all through the fall, the winter, the springtime. And you know, you can enjoy a bowl of this in the summer too. But I'm always feeling a bit cozy at this time of year. So now I'm going to add in about 3/4 of a cup of sweet onion and about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of chopped celery. And I chopped it pretty small. It's about 1/4 inch in size. And I'm going to saute this for a couple of minutes. And while I do this, I want to tell you about why this recipe is so special to me. When I was growing up, my family moved a lot. I moved 14 times before I was married. And the only constant we ever really had was when my parents bought a little tiny house on Cape Cod. It's a 2-story, typical Cape Cod kind of house with wood shakes on the outside and green shutters, and it overlooked Old Silver Beach and the marsh. We sat on top of the hill, and up there you call it the marsh. And that's where all the quahogs were. And we go quahogging. They're like plants, if you don't know what a quahog is. And next door, in this big, beautiful home, lived the Mahoneys. It was also their summer house, but they were from Massachusetts. And Mrs. Mahoney made a killer clam chowder. And so I enjoyed that an awful lot as a kid, and one day she told me how she made it. So whenever I make New England clam chowder, I think of Mrs. Mahoney. And it was always one of my dad's favorites too. So when they would come here to visit at Swan's Nest, I would make my dad clam chowder. It's also very traditional for me to make it. Oh, by the way, this is starting to release juices from the onion and celery. They've softened some. So I'm putting in about 2 tablespoons of flour. This will provide the thickening for the chowder. Now I'm going to continue stirring until I see the moisture coming out yet again. So right now it's very dry, but it's going to release the moisture. So anyway, I would make clam chowder for my dad when he came. And it's also kind of traditional. I always make soup on Christmas Eve, always. And if we have a large group of people, I'll make 2 kinds of soup. And this is always one of them. It's one of Randy's favorites too. So this is, notice now, starting to see a little bit of moisture. It's not so dry. So this is good. This is just what I'm looking for here. And it's, yep, see how you can see the moisture of the celery and the onion again? At this point, I can add in my reserved clam juice. So what you're using is you get your cans of clams, baby clams, and drain it really well. Hang on to that liquid. This is like seafood liquor, okay? Now I'm going to add this in kind of a little at a time, I think it's best. And stir, stir, stir. Smells good. Smells like the ocean. Smells like Mrs. Mahoney's clam chowder. And then I'm going to add a little more. And the reason I'm not just dumping it all in at one time is because I want to make sure that this stays smooth. Because of the flour, which is the thickening agent, I do need to make sure that it doesn't get all lumpy. And I let in the remaining clam juice. Up my heat just a little. And then next, I'm going to take 1 jar of clam juice. So you can find, these are always put together, your clams and your clam juice. And so I'm going to add in, and that'll be about a cup. Add that in and stir this real well. Now I need to let this sit for about 10 minutes, come to a boil, then turn down the heat, simmer for that 10 minutes. Then I'll come back to this. I'm going to add in cream, half and half, the potatoes, and a little bit of seasoning. So now, after about 10 minutes of simmering and then a nice little bubble here, I'm going to add in half and half. I have 2 cups of half and half. Beautiful. And some heavy cream. I have a cup of heavy cream. It's going to add richness to the soup. Now I can add in my potatoes. And I have, these are gold potatoes, and they're cut about 1/2 inch size, because you don't want to have to cook this a long, long time. Ooh, splattered. No wonder my dad loved this. So I'm going to add in some white pepper. I like white pepper because it adds a little bit of a zing in the back of the throat, and also I don't have all those little black specks in the soup from a black pepper. Then I add in my drained baby clams, and there they are. Remember, we used the juice of those earlier. So now I actually put the clams in. So at this point, I'm going to let this soup come almost to a boil, but not quite. You don't want to boil the soup because it will curdle. And, but I do want to heat it through real well and cook it for about 15 to 20 minutes until the potatoes are nice tender. The smaller your potatoes, the less time on the stove. So we'll do that, and I'll be right back. So I'm just chopping up some fresh parsley to garnish this with chowder, and it's ready to serve. Full of potatoes, clams, and onions, and celery, little bits of bacon. Now, if you wish to make it without the bacon, I'll often use olive oil and skip the bacon entirely for my onions and my celery. So here's one. Next, oh, look at that, it's just full of all these beautiful clams. Love this. Never bring it to a boil. You just let it heat through. Really nice and hot. Yum. I think Mrs. Mahoney would be pretty proud of this girl. I'm just going to garnish with a little bit of fresh parsley. We have oyster crackers, so you have to have oyster crackers, and that is the New England clam chowder. Next up, I'm going to show you a winter white bean soup that you're going to love. I'm so excited to share this recipe with you. This is the winter white bean soup. It's super easy and really flavorful. So I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of olive oil into my Analon X pan. And I'm going to add in some carrots, sliced carrots, some onion. This is sweet onion. You know I love sweet onion. Doesn't make me cry when I slice it. Celery, sliced celery, about 2 stalks. And although the title of this is Winter White Bean Soup, you will probably enjoy this all year round. So I'm going to saute this for several minutes until these aromatics begin to soften. So while that is cooking, I'll get a clove of garlic ready. This is one large clove. And I have 2 more already chopped. And I like it rather fine because I don't like big pieces of garlic in my mouth, especially when I'm eating soup. This is a clear soup. What's nice about a clear soup is you really do get to see all the colors of your ingredients. And that's kind of appealing to me. Now, assuming that this has sauteed for about 5 to 8 minutes and got nice and soft, at that point, I would add my garlic. So I'll do that now. Put the rest in here. Now, I've had people who've tried this recipe before, and they have emailed me and contacted me on my social media, either my Facebook or Instagram page, and told me how much they really, really love this soup. Sometimes they make it twice a week because they say it just really hits the spot for them every single time. Look at those beautiful colors. Isn't that pretty? So I would let this cook for about 10 minutes to get everything nice and soft. I will say if you're at high altitude, it's going to take a lot longer for the carrots to cook. I always say it takes a lifetime for carrots to cook when you're at 9,300 feet. But anyway, one of the tricks my husband Randy came up with was you can pre-blanch those in a small pot in a little bit of water for about 5 minutes. Just put the lid on it and just boil them, and they'll soften up. And then you can add it to your soup. And I have used his trick a number of times. If you're at low altitude, no problem. Okay, so let's assume this is totally softened. So I'm going to add in 4 cups of prepared vegetable broth. This is a vegetarian soup. Two cups of water. So before you make a lot, lovely. Then at this point, you're going to bring it to a boil, cover it, turn it down, and simmer it for an hour. And when you do that, it will start to really develop the flavors. The vegetable broth will pick up all the lovely flavors of the onion, celery, carrots, and garlic. And it really makes a beautiful, beautiful soup. Now, if I have time, I will simmer it for 2 to 3 hours and just real low, and the flavor becomes just like an elixir. It is so, so wonderful. So it all depends how much time you have, and soup days can be long and slow and wonderful, or they can be, I gotta get this on the table in a hurry. So whatever your schedule is like, this soup will work for you. So we're going to set this aside for a few minutes and let this cook and get some flavor going. Then I'll add in some beans and some thyme and bay leaf, and we'll just let it go. So I've let the soup simmer for about an hour. Now I'm going to add in 2 cans of cannellini beans, or you can use Great Northern if that's what you have in your cupboard. And I drain them, rinse them, and drain them again. And I'm going to add in bay leaf and several sprigs of fresh thyme. And all the little leaves of thyme will come off into the soup as it cooks. Now I put the lid back on, and I'm going to let it simmer again until the beans are hot and the flavors from the bay leaf and the thyme infuse the soup. Just going to add some freshly ground pepper to the soup. Give it a quick stir. And this is ready to serve. I have to show you, this is my little soup ladle, and it's a swan because this is Swan's Nest. That's the name of the home that was named by Ben Rivette back in 1898 when the house was built. And a friend of mine found this and gave this to me. I love things that are swans. So to serve this soup, I take some fresh spinach, baby spinach, and put it in the bottom of my bowl, like this. And then I ladle the soup right onto that. And what happens is the spinach kind of wilts a little bit, but still crunchy when you bite into it. And it is such a nice textural thing in your mouth to enjoy. So here's one. And I'll do the other. Some more baby spinach in here. And if the spinach is too big, go ahead and chop it up, but the wilting will help. Here we go for the other one. This is pure comfort here. On a chilly day or a day when you just need to be good to yourself or maybe to someone else. This is a nice soup to take down the street to a neighbor who really could use a little extra loving. And there we go. And that is the white winter bean soup. Next, I'm going to make some cranberry muffins because what goes better with soup than muffins? We have two gorgeous soups, and now I'm going to make some orange cranberry muffins to go with them. So I have a half cup of unsalted butter. I'm going to put in the mixer here. And add in 3/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. Make sure it's creamed really well. It should be nice and light. So just gradually add your sugar in. Ooh, this is beautiful. Be sure to always let the butter out for at least a half hour if it's a warm layer. A lot of times I'll cheat and I'll use my microwave to soften the butter if I'm in a hurry. And I'm always in a hurry. So while that is creamed, I'm going to stir together my flour. So I have flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Stir this together until it's well mixed. Years ago, we had a student from Dijon, France, who came to stay with us for several weeks, and it was kind of an exchange between their little school in Dijon and our school in Dallas. And this one young boy got to stay with us, Sebastian. He had never had a muffin before, and boy did he find out how much we loved muffins. So when he went home, I sent him home with American measuring cups and measuring spoons, as well as a muffin tin and the recipe, so his mom can make muffins when he got home. So I'm going to scrape this down now that I've added the first egg. Get all that butter and sugar off the bottom. There we go. And I'm also going to zest in an orange. So I've got my microplane zester here. And just want to take out the outer part of the orange. Don't want to take off the white pith because that's going to be bitter. And if you do this while the sugar is still creaming in with the butter, you'll extract a lot more of the oils from the orange, and therefore you'll get a deeper, richer flavor. Oh, beautiful. And this is a really large orange, so I probably don't need a full plate. Very nice. And then, oops, let me take my orange back because I'm going to slice it in half and put some fresh orange juice in here. Probably about 3 tablespoons of fresh orange juice, but you can just kind of eyeball it. Add this in. And get this in a little more. There we go. There we are. Fresh squeezed orange juice. If you don't have an orange in the house, add some orange juice from a carton. And then I can go ahead and add my extra egg now. So that's 2 eggs total. And I'll add in a teaspoon of vanilla as well. I'm going to mix this whole thing. You want to make sure it's really well mixed. While this is creaming, I'm going to chop up some fresh cranberries. I always buy extra cranberries during the holidays when they're readily available in the store. And then I freeze them, because that way I have them anytime I want them. And I'm just going to chop them kind of roughly. A bit more. See what that looks like. Yeah, I want to make sure that I don't have any giant pieces here. I think that did a pretty good job. Going to reserve that for a few minutes. And I'm going to scrape my bowl again. Right now the mixture looks kind of rough. It's not really creamed all together. So I'm going to cream it a little bit longer. It's a little smoother. Right now you can almost see it's patchy. So turn up the speed on this and get a really good mix, trying to really break everything up. Now I'm going to stir in my cranberries. Okay, if you're starting to feel cozy in the house, there's nothing like starting to add cranberries into your recipes, especially muffins. You can mix this up briefly, and it kind of turns it pink, which is pretty. All right. Now I'll begin to add in my dry ingredients first. So this is the flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Stir this on low speed. And I have a cup of milk. Actually, it's about a cup and a half. I pour this in slowly. These are pretty, these are going to be pink muffins. Now I'm adding more of the flour mixture. In the meantime, I have heated my oven to 350 degrees. And again, incorporate this slowly. You always want to, when you're mixing breads, muffins, cakes, cookies, you always want to start with your butter mixture, then add in the flour, then add in your liquid, your milk or whatever. Don't start with the liquid. And you want to end with the flour mixture. And that's because the flour then binds up all those molecules of fats, and it helps to really bake evenly that way. So I add a little more milk to this. So while my soup continues to simmer, I'm making muffins. So it's a good use of time. So I add in most of the remaining flour, but reserve a little because that'll be the last thing in. Slowly incorporate this again into the butter cream mixture. Then add in more milk. And again, kind of slowly. Give it a chance to incorporate before you just drown the batter. I think I can make muffins with my eyes closed. I made so many muffins through the years. And they're nice because you can pop them into a lunchbox the next day, great breakfast. Good as a little dessert in the evening. Muffins is sort of an all day, all evening kind of thing like that. Then I'm going to add last bit of flour mixture here. Do it a final little high speed there. I always unplug my mixer before I handle any of the implements for it. Now I can fill my muffin cups. I'm going to give this a final little stir around the edge with my spatula, just to make sure I got all that flour on the edge there. And now I can fill my muffin cups. I don't know about you, but I'm having a really fun time because I know there's hot soup and muffins just around the corner. So fill each muffin cup about half full. Like this. Smells good. Each one is going to have some cranberries in there to give a nice little textural addition. If you're baking at low altitude, these are going to take about 15 to 18 minutes at 350 degrees. If you're baking at high altitude, you're going to need to bake these about 18 to 20 minutes. And then stick a toothpick in the center of one or two, just to make sure if it comes out clean, they're done. So this makes a lot of muffins. And you can cut the recipe in half if you like. But you can freeze these too, so it's kind of nice. If I'm going to, go to the effort of making muffins or anything else, I want to be able to have some later, so I'll freeze them. Okay, and then as a finish, I would sprinkle them with sugar, but I'm going to use some sparkling sugar. Sparkling sugar is a larger granule, and it doesn't melt in the oven, so you get that professional bakery kind of result on top, and a nice little crunch on the top when you bite into your muffin. Fabulous! Ready to pop them in. Gosh, I've had a good time. New England clam chowder, winter white bean soup, and cranberry orange muffins. And I'm serving this with a petite Syrah. Thanks so much for joining me today on At Home with Christy Rost, where great food, beautiful wines, and hospitality are a tradition. I'd love to hear from you, so please connect with me on my Instagram and Facebook platforms. And be sure to visit my website at christyrost.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Salt Seasons, Little Bear, Honey, and our good friends at Amelon Cookware, Melissa's Produce, Microplane, and Michael David Winery. See you next time.